Island, and it is so nice to meet you. Welcome to the 53rd Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be looking into Jungkook and Taehyung, also known as V. For those new and returning, I take notes on a synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs, aspects, and birth times available house overlays. I also add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. Feel free to leave your own in the comments below. Before we start this reading, give this video a like and subscribe for more celebrity synastry chart readings from me. Let's get into it. Starting off with the sun, we have Jungkook's sun in Virgo and Taehyung's sun in Capricorn. These are both earth signs. It's a dry relationship and a good business team, so I assume the good business team would be them being in a band together. That would certainly help. Jungkook enjoys serving Taehyung. It's a practical and grounded relationship, and Taehyung helps Jungkook be more efficient. Taehyung's sun overlaid in Jungkook's first house. Taehyung really likes Jungkook, and marriage is possible. Jungkook is energized by Taehyung, and Taehyung is a light in Jungkook's life. Both feel positive about the other, and they both feel familiar with each other, which is not surprising if they do spend a lot of time together, because especially from K-pop band culture, with it being a bit more intense, I imagine they spend quite a lot of time together. Boosts the other's self-esteem, and Taehyung feels like Jungkook really gets him. Potentially connected to how we saw that Jungkook enjoys serving him, so maybe potentially connected to that. They bring out the best in each other, and Taehyung feels he can be himself around Jungkook. And Jungkook appreciates the admiration he gets from Taehyung. Their suns are Trine together, so there's mutual respect. They energize each other, which we just saw with Taehyung energizing Jungkook and him generally feeling energized in the relationship. They are supportive with each other and they are cooperative with each other. They accumulate wealth and luck together, not surprising. And they can deal with conflict in a healthy way. Jungkook's sun square Taehyung's Pluto. It's love-hate and there's a strong magnetic connection. Hard to remain just friends after. This could potentially be related to them as colleagues, or if there was something more than that, which you could interpret it both ways, but I feel like with the colleagues one, it would make a lot of sense, because potentially, you have those friendships where they are, grown in a specific setting and kind of stay there, and outside of that environment, it is quite difficult to maintain that friendship, so it could go either way. Both need to learn not to focus on the ego. I really agree with this, because they're being in a band together, you don't want someone to sort of become the sort of like Beyonce, or Justin Timberlake is probably a better example, that, develops a bit of an ego, wants to be the star of the show and everything. You need that sense of equality and togetherness in that. You don't need someone to have the ego and to not collaborate with everyone else. It's transformative, I would definitely say so. They want to learn everything about the other, and they both want to be dominant. This is interesting, because if they both need to actively not focus on their ego, and they both want to be dominant, it just makes me feel like they both want to be the sort of like breaking out star of the band, if that makes sense. Or even the lead of the band. There's a possibility to encourage the other's negative qualities. The only thing we've seen with this so far is like at the beginning with the it tends to be a dry relationship. If they are both tending to be too practical, of course it's not a negative to be practical, but like if they both focus like too much on the more practical things in life, like work, they are kind of allowing that in this relationship anyway. If they are both at work, that has to be their focus. There are power struggles and possibility of an unhealthy obsession with the other. They both experience emotions they never felt before in a relationship. I believe that everyone in BTS would kind of have this sort of unique relationship with each other, because they are the only ones that are experiencing this sort of like mass sort of success and everything, and a lot of fans as well. Taehyung's sun trine Jungkook's moon. There's honest communication, and Taehyung relies on Jungkook's support. Jungkook relies on Taehyung's wisdom, and it's a naturally cooperative relationship. We have seen this a lot, haven't we? There's a lot of like them being helpful with each other, they collaborating together. Jungkook tends to be dependent on Taehyung. I mean, the only things we have seen like really relating to this is like we saw in the beginning, there was that efficiency thing that Taehyung seems to really help Jungkook with, But we also see that he feels like he gets a lot of admiration for Taehyung, so both feel they can rely on each other, and I feel like that is the case. Taehyung's sun, Trine Jungkook's Mercury. There's a great friendship and they have good communication. Taehyung accepts Jungkook and they both just get each other. We keep seeing, I'm really appreciating, we're seeing there's a lot of like just really good understanding and just good collaboration, communication, it seems like here. They do business together well, not a surprise. Taehyung supports Jungkook's beliefs and they can talk through issues together. Taehyung gets what makes Jungkook tick, which is potentially why Taehyung can be very helpful to Jungkook. If he understands him in like a very unique way, he can definitely give him a lot of unique advice, like sort of very tailored to him if he knows him well. Taehyung admires Jungkook's intelligence, again with the admiration from Taehyung's end. They understand each other on a basic level, which makes sense. Like, if they both tend to be very practical, grounded people, Taehyung feels he can think better around Jungkook. They speak to each other with understanding, and Taehyung allows Jungkook to express himself. Taehyung's sun, Sextile Jungkook's Mars. They motivate each other, they would definitely need that. They give each other space and they have different hobbies, which I feel like is a good thing to always have separation. Obviously a bit of separation from your relationship, but in this case, if they're in a band together where I assume they would spend a crazy amount of time together, that would definitely be healthy. Neither feels blocked by the other, and Taehyung admires Jungkook's drive. Which I feel like this is where it could potentially be love-hate, because if we're... First of all, we're seeing Taehyung admiring Jungkook again. But second of all, this is potentially where the love-hate thing could come in. Because if they do admire each other and sort of, look up to each other in a way and are very inspired and motivated by each other when it comes to their sort of drive and sort of ability to be in the industry, for lack of better words, and to potentially be the next or the sort of like breakout star of the band, that could definitely be love-hate, because yes, it is a great thing for your friend, but at the same time, you also want that for yourself, and it kind of is like, well, there can only be one, potentially why there are those power struggles there. Hopefully that all made sense. They can further the other's goals in a unique way, they are, aren't they? They both give the other confidence. I'm liking this. Like, there's a lot of good, it's a very good reading. I'm really liking this. They participate in activities together. Yeah, they have a whole band together. They are straightforward with each other and they tend to get annoyed with each other. I'm sure you would. You spend a lot of time with that person. In general, anyone you spend a lot of time with, there are going to be things you get annoyed with.
Now for the intermission, this video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry chart readings on my Etsy store. I do both basic and detailed ones. The basic ones are a bit more simple to understand and really good for those just beginning out in astrology, getting their heads around it, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed readings are very similar to what I do here, so it's a lot of it just with my insights and interpretation on the chart. So if you're interested in that and everything else, astrology and tarot, readings and gifts, definitely check out my Etsy store for that. I'm always releasing new other things there as well. And you can even just favorite the store just to support me for free. Thank you for listening, and let's get back to the reading.
So now it's time for moon. We have Jungkook's moon in Virgo and Taehyung's moon in Aries. Taehyung's brash nature makes Jungkook anxious. Taehyung doesn't understand Jungkook's worrying nature. They support each other with their strengths, and Jungkook's criticism makes Taehyung feel discouraged. This took a turn. They need to adjust to each other on a daily level. That I feel like they are, but everything else, like every single time in these readings, I swear I say this is a great reading. Suddenly, there's always a U-turn straight after that. I seriously need to stop saying that. Oh, I love this reading because it always flips on me. Taehyung's moon overlaid in Jungkook's third house. Taehyung admires Jungkook's lifestyle. Potentially, I'm not sure how BTS formed together or anything. So is it possible that Taehyung came in later on to the band or maybe Jungkook was in the music industry in the first place and he brought Taehyung into that? I feel like there potentially could be something, because if Taehyung is admiring Jungkook's lifestyle, You know, Jungkook's lifestyle is essentially this whole music thing. That is what makes him, you know, particularly unique in this relationship. So I feel like there potentially is something that Jungkook brought Taehyung into all of this because Taehyung admired his lifestyle. Taehyung is supportive of Jungkook's priorities. It's relaxed and productive, and Jungkook enjoys Taehyung's company. Jungkook thinks of Taehyung often, and they don't irritate each other. I mean, on the whole, they don't seem to. Like, I feel like obviously it would be natural that they get annoyed with each other, but I feel like just on the whole, they don't seem to. And they communicate well. Their moons are trine together, so there's a desire to nurture each other, and they are sensitive to each other's needs. It's long term. I imagine it has already been quite a while since the band formed together, so it makes sense. And from what we're seeing and from what, I don't know, the way I'm interpreting this, it seems like they were, like, you know, in some kind of contact or friendship before the band. They share similar tastes and they feel comfortable together. They feel safe together and they enjoy creating a home together, which they kind of, I imagine, would have kind of had to do that. You know, especially if you are in a band, I imagine, obviously at one point, if you're touring for a long time, if you're together for a long time, you know, at some point you do have that, so you do kind of create that home together in terms, obviously, like, not a like stable house, but you know, even the idea of them, like, you know, probably staying in the same hotel rooms and sort of having that sort of like living quarters together in one way or another makes sense. Tendency to avoid hurting each other. I imagine if there is that power struggle of, like, you know, I want to be the more successful one, or like, I feel like there subconsciously would be, and it seems like there is some subconscious thing of like wanting to be the more dominant star. If they, you know, and with that, there does seem to be a very good friendship, and I wouldn't be surprised if like that was where they tended to avoid hurting each other. And if they are avoiding this topic, potentially that is where the love hate comes in. It's more of like an internal thing. Hopefully that all made sense. Family plays an important part in the relationship, but not really sure where. I mean, they kind of are like family, you know, band family. Possibility of being too accommodating to each other. I feel like we have seen this on both ends. With like Taehyung, he seems to be very like admiring Jungkook and like seems to do whatever. And we also have been seeing like Jungkook also likes to serve Taehyung. I guess we have seen a bit more on Taehyung's end, but we have seen this on Jungkook's as well. Jungkook's moon trine Taehyung's Jupiter. There's good fortune and a possibility of being too excessive. I mean, it's not surprising. Like, they are still fairly young in this massive band. Happy in each other's presence, and adventure is important in this relationship. I mean, they are going on a very unique adventure together, so yeah. Taehyung helps Jungkook with his emotions, and honest communication is easy. I'm really appreciative we keep seeing that there's honest communication together, and a lot of communication. Jungkook's moon squared Taehyung's Pluto. Jealousy and emotional manipulation is underlying. I mean, in a way it is the jealousy thing, I'm sure. Taehyung can sense Jungkook's unconscious needs and manipulates him with it. Taehyung tends to be controlling over Jungkook. I don't like this because it's a bit odd if, like, Taehyung is very admirable of Jungkook and wants to do a lot for him. And this deep emotional transformation, we did see like Taehyung helping Jungkook with his emotions. Yeah. Both need to let go of the idea that love only exists with control. This could potentially be with each other. But if there is that deep emotional transformation, potentially they both go through it as individuals. Potentially that is where Taehyung helps Jungkook. But this could also be if they are in a more than friends relationship with each other as well. Both need to work through power struggles. We see again, projection is a challenge. Interesting. Both may need to work through some psychological demons from the past. Again, this could be like together. Again, we're seeing potentially the control thing, but like if they are going through it, like that deep emotional transformation. Taehyung's moon opposite Jungkook's Venus. They both learn balance and harmony, and it is easy to take each other for granted. I guess it could be, especially if they have that relationship where they do a lot for each other. Living beyond means occurs, we see again, not surprisingly so. They will not appreciate each other sometimes, and Taehyung may be undervalued or misunderstood by Jungkook. There is a lot of space for this on Jungkook's end because Taehyung seems to be very admirable of Jungkook and wants to do a lot for him. Compromise needs to happen. Definitely at some point it would, with the whole power struggle, who's going to be the bigger one. Jungkook gets confused of Taehyung's emotions, so it looks like Taehyung seems to be the more emotional one. And unfortunately, the more emotionally intelligent one. I only say unfortunately because we saw that Taehyung can be a bit manipulative with that. So Taehyung sees Jungkook as narcissistic and seductive, and Jungkook sees Taehyung as childish and needy. I'm not shocked as such. In a way, Jungkook could see him that way because if Taehyung is just doing a lot of admiring of Jungkook and wants to do anything for him and is a bit more emotional, and if Jungkook is not as emotional and is not as reliant upon Taehyung, it could be a bit. Definitely the needy bit makes sense. Taehyung's moon conjunct Jungkook's Saturn. Taehyung feels an emotional need to maintain long-term commitment. Jungkook wants to guide Taehyung, and Jungkook is protective of Taehyung. This is interesting because it seems like Jungkook is the one that brought Taehyung into this whole music thing. And this makes sense. If he wants to guide him into this and also be protective of him, because I have to imagine he knows how it can get very bad and everything. So I would imagine he would feel very protective if he is bringing him into all of this. Taehyung may be either upset with this help or accepting of it. With what we've seen, I feel like it leads more into the accepting side of it because he seems to be very admirable of Jungkook. Jungkook gives practical support rather than emotional support. I'm not surprised. They both seem practical, but I feel like Taehyung is a bit more in tune with his sort of emotional side. Relationship based on mutual respect. Taehyung's moon square Jungkook's Neptune. Misunderstand each other's signals, and there's a possibility of neglecting each other. I feel like it makes sense. If they both are more career focused, of course it happens. It's a confusing relationship. Taehyung is unsure of Jungkook's intentions. Interesting. Difficulty maintaining their relationship. Not surprisingly, so I feel like they do genuinely seem to have a really good foundation. And we have seen a lot of long-term factors. But because we have seen that Taehyung feels an emotional need to maintain that commitment, potentially there is a bit of difficulty with maintaining that. And definitely if they are both, I keep saying this, if they're both career focused and want to be the bigger, successful star, it is kind of hindering their sort of bandmate-colleague relationship. Taehyung is sensitive to Jungkook's needs. I feel like you could see this, he's just intuitive, but we did see that he sort of unconsciously sees his, deeper needs and manipulates him with it, so it's So now it's time for Mercury. We have Jungkook's Mercury in Virgo and Taehyung's Mercury in Capricorn. These are both earth signs. Prioritize practical daily matters, definitely makes sense. I'm sure their lives revolve around just the more practical, business things of being in a band. Relationship can get stale easily, and they accomplish goals together 100%. Both tend to neglect their relationship. Yeah, that is where I feel like they would have that difficulty maintaining the relationship, because I feel like there definitely seems to be some kind of tendency to neglect each other. I feel like they do need to make that effort in sort of nurturing each other a bit more. Taehyung's Mercury overlaid in Jungkook's first house overlaid. Taehyung can easily express himself to Jungkook. We have seen all that expressing together, and they both feel very much encouraged to do so. Jungkook feels more talkative around Taehyung, potentially why, Taehyung is able to emotionally nurture him more. If Jungkook likes to open up, Jungkook finds it easy to understand Taehyung. Jungkook's Mercury square Taehyung's Pluto. There's frequent intellectual arguments. Oh no. Both may hold on to issues for too long, and Jungkook is overwhelmed by this dynamic. In a way, I don't blame him, because he seems to be sort of, in a way, not a mentor exactly, but sort of the, light for Taehyung in this sort of industry, and feeling that sense of responsibility, I guess. He seems to feel that for Taehyung, but also Taehyung seems to be a bit more emotional. And if Jungkook is just not as emotional, that could be very overwhelming to have someone like Taehyung around, potentially. Jungkook wants to understand Taehyung deeply, and Jungkook feels controlled by Taehyung. I don't like this. Taehyung tries to control Jungkook's thoughts. Taehyung's a bit suspicious in this relationship, because, we saw earlier, he seems to be the more emotionally savvy one, for lack of better words. But we also saw that he can tend to manipulate Jungkook. Taehyung wants to know Jungkook's secrets. Taehyung is not cool here. What is he doing? Taehyung's Mercury conjunct Jungkook's Neptune. Spirituality is prioritized and they have a telepathic-like connection. They do seem to have a very good connection with each other. They are compassionate towards each other, and Taehyung helps Jungkook turn his dreams into reality. Interesting. I would have thought this would be the other way around. But they could be helping each other. Obviously they are in BTS together, and as far as I know, it's not like one of them was bigger than the other before. They both kind of, got the notoriety and fame from BTS. So potentially Taehyung. So it looks like that Jungkook was the more sort of in the industry before Taehyung, but he could also get his feet around quickly, and they can both, help each other. Habit of telling the other what they want to hear. There's deceptive and exaggerative communication. I guess this has to be on Taehyung's end. From what we have seen, Taehyung finds Jungkook confusing. That's kind of funny. It makes sense though, the whole emotional thing. That seems to be a bit annoying. Hard to talk about practical matters. This is interesting. We did see that they can tend to be those intellectual disagreements. So potentially, even though they have good communication, we did see they also have honest communication. With that can obviously come some sort of arguments. If they are both very honest about each other, something is bound to come up. So now it's time for Venus. We have Jungkook's Venus in Libra and Taehyung's Venus in Aquarius. These are both air signs. It's an intellectually stimulating relationship and they love talking together. We see that. It's a respectful and equal relationship, which I feel like, yes, it's a good thing, but I feel like for these two, this can also cause conflict if, they do seem to have it genuinely. But there is also that thing they potentially want to both take their careers bigger and better. And obviously one can only be the best. They work through conflicts reasonably, we have been seeing. Taehyung's Venus overlaid in Jungkook's first house. Taehyung is attracted to Jungkook and Taehyung enjoys being seen with Jungkook. Interesting. Jungkook is flattered by Taehyung. This probably relates to Taehyung admiring Jungkook. Jungkook over time may not appreciate the shallow admiration. Oh dear. Again, there does seem to be difficulty maintaining this relationship. Taehyung does not pay attention to the regular Jungkook. This is interesting. This kind of puts a new spin on things, because this whole time it's we've been seeing a lot of Taehyung admires Jungkook. No. We've been seeing a lot of that. Interesting. Jungkook's Venus square Taehyung's Mars. There's jealousy and possessiveness. It's interesting we're seeing the whole possessiveness thing again, but the jealousy thing makes sense. We haven't really seen a whole lot of possessiveness factors. Jungkook sees Taehyung as dominant. They both we're just seeing this, but in a way, because we did see they both want to be the dominant one, and they are those power struggles. We see this now. We're seeing this point now with Jungkook, but throughout the reading we have been seeing, it seems like because of Taehyung's admiration, in a way he's kind of seeing Jungkook as dominant as well. Taehyung sees Jungkook as seductive with no substance. Are we seeing this again? This is kind of, it's not funny, but it's just dude. Taehyung's Venus squared Jungkook's Mars. This is a repeated aspect, just inverted. So Taehyung sees Jungkook as dominant and Jungkook sees Taehyung as seductive with no substance. Not surprised with the whole dominant thing, that they see each other as dominant. We have seen that. Taehyung's Venus conjunct Jungkook's Jupiter. It's a fortunate relationship. Yeah, obviously, there's mutual attraction and they are forgiving of each other. I'm sure they would have to be. They travel together, not a big surprise. Their life is probably literally just tours and all of that. They enjoy each other's company, we see again. They are generous with each other and enjoy social activities together. Taehyung is affectionate with Jungkook and people enjoy being in their presence. Yes, in a unique way, you can literally interpret this as like, their presence together, and obviously there's more members in the band besides them, but like people do enjoy their presence. That is how they made it. Taehyung's Venus conjunct Jungkook's Uranus. There's an instant attraction, probably from Taehyung's end. Initial attraction fades. Interesting. It's interesting we're seeing a lot of like not deteriorating factors as such, because like a more difficulty maintaining this long term. Taehyung is attracted to Jungkook's unpredictability. I want to twist this a bit because we did see that Taehyung is attracted to Jungkook's lifestyle. Potentially, he's really attracted to the whole sort of unpredictable nature of the whole music industry. So now it's time for Mars. We have Jungkook's Mars in Scorpio and Taehyung's Mars in Capricorn. They maintain their independence. I feel like they do. Jungkook is possessive of Taehyung. This is who's the possessive one here. Both strive to suppress their emotions. I feel like this would be more on Jungkook's end. I mean, with Taehyung, we've mostly seen that he wants to help Jungkook with his emotions, which we have seen as questionable, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Taehyung's Mars overlaid in Jungkook's first house. Taehyung inspires Jungkook to be more brave, and Jungkook has a desire to seduce Taehyung. We have been seeing a couple times already that it seems like Jungkook seems to be the more sort of like seductive one in the relationship, so it adds up, I guess. Taehyung encourages Jungkook to be proud of who he is, and Taehyung is blunt with Jungkook. Taehyung's Mars square Jungkook's Saturn. Taehyung tries to impress Jungkook. Jungkook's standards are in conflict with Taehyung's efforts. I mean, from what we have seen, it seems to be the whole practicality versus emotional thing. Jungkook may try to control Taehyung as he thinks he is immature. This adds up. We saw Jungkook seeing Taehyung as a bit more childish and needy. Taehyung's Mars conjunct Jungkook's Neptune. Taehyung may resent Jungkook for not giving him enough space. Interesting. They are both humanitarians, so potentially they do support things together. Taehyung is fascinated by Jungkook's ethereal mindset, dependent on Taehyung. I'm sure he could be in a way, like if he does have, like we did see, like they do tend to have a bit of an ego. Potentially, so like if Taehyung is giving him a lot of admiration, I'm sure that would feed his ego a bit. And he could be really into that. Jungkook sees Taehyung as a knight in shining armor. This is interesting. I thought it would be like the other way around. Potentially, I mean, the only thing, potentially, as I've been saying, like Taehyung seems to offer that emotional support. Questionable, but he does offer it. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I would be very interested to see what you guys have to say about this one, because I feel like genuinely this is actually like a pretty fun reading. I'm not going to lie. Like this was an enjoyable reading for me. So I would be interested to see how you guys interpret this one. And if you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these weekly. And besides that, give this video a like and I will see you guys next time. Bye!